Hi there friends, it's Cassie. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to my YouTube channel for another video. Today we're going to be playing with some more of the new Simon Hurley Create goodies. This is the Paint Swatches stamp. It's a rubber mount stamp, red rubber. It's awesome. I love it. We also have the Darling Dahlias stamp and die. That is a background stamp, but it's a pull apart. And we have matching dies to go with it. And then we're going to stick to a no diving and a guppy color combo for all three of our cards today. That's right, we're making 3 cards. So I'm going to put the background into my MISTI. And to do this, you got to take out the insides of your MISTI. I'm going to tack down a piece of white cardstock that measures 4¼ by 5½ inches. So that's the full front of an A2 size card. And I'm going to use some Shady ink by Simon Hurley Create. It's a very dark gray. It's really, really great. If you don't quite want like a dark black, this is the next best thing in my opinion. And I'm so glad that this was added to the line. So I'm just going to keep inking that background up just to make sure that I have that entire piece of paper covered. But isn't that stamp beautiful? I think it might be one of my favorites from this release, along with this stamp set. So again, this one's called the Paint Swatches. And I love the possibility for backgrounds that you can make with this, or how you can highlight things with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Guppy ink and I'm going to move this stamp around. So we'll start with this up in that upper left hand corner. We'll ink the stamp up with the Guppy ink and then stamp that down on top of the background that we made. We'll clean off the stamp. And then we're going to move our background around a little bit, and then we'll move the stamp as well. Just trying to like fill in some of those areas just to highlight some of what we've already stamped. And we'll continue using that same color. But this could be used with so many different backgrounds and so many different colors. So keep that in mind. I feel like this stamp set in particular, this Paint Swatches, has a ton of longevity to it. So lots of possibilities. All right, doing that again one last time. We'll stamp that down. And yeah, red rubber does such an amazing job of stamping. You typically don't have to stamp it down too many times. Okay, so as I said, this Darling Dahlias is a pull apart. So I'm going to use one of the Dahlias, and we're going to ink that up with some more of that Shady ink, and we're going to just stamp that down onto this piece of white cardstock. And then I have these very small ink blenders. These are from Amazon. I'll have those linked down below, but I'm going to start off with some of that Guppy in the center, and then I'm going to bring in our no diving, and we're going to blend that all around the Guppy until we've filled in our Dahlia. And I think this is a fun way to color these up. You could obviously use like your alcohol markers if you wanted, and yes, you can do alcohol markers over the Simon Hurley Create inks. That's another reason I love them. I've said that before. I love that. So we'll take the matching die, run that through our die cutting machine, and then I'm also going to bring in this stamp set. This is the Framed Florals. I just want the sentiments from it. There are so many great sentiments in it. So I'm going to pull out just a note, and we're going to stamp that down on top of that white cardstock using a crisp black ink. I want that to really stand out apart from the shady background that we stamped. And so I'll trim that down, and then I am going to, pet Miles for a little while. Quality control had to come in and take a look and make sure we were doing the right stuff. So I'll pet him, and then we'll get our background ready. That is a piece of cardstock that measures 5½ inches by 8½ inches, scored at 4¼ And then I'm going to trim down the background that I made just a little bit. So we're going to cut off 1/4 inch on that short side and that long side. And you could save those to put on the inside if you wanted, but we're going to take a little bit of mint tape and we're going to mask off the back of the card. I want to add some of that no diving to the edges, so I'm going to bring in a blending buddy, and I'm going to blend the edges, just these 2 edges right here, this long one and this short one. And yes, these are a little bit, quite a bit bigger than those little ink blenders that I got from Amazon. So that way it'll take a lot less time to blend that ink on there. I'll clean up my mess because I did this on my glass mat. And then we're going to take our background and we're going to glue that down. And so then you have that blue showing on that right hand side and the bottom of the card. We'll use some liquid glue to adhere down our panel to our background or our base. And then I am going to use some foam squares for our Dahlia and our sentiment. I'll just use 3 big ones. And then I'm going to use a couple of big ones just cut in half on our sentiment. This will just make the card have a little bit of dimension, which is always fun, right? And then we'll peel off all the release paper on those. But again, think of the color combos that you could come up with, even just using this exact same design. Okay, and then we'll pop down our Dahlia. And then that's going to finish off our first card for today. I think that one's a lot of fun. All right, our next one is super simple. We just have a piece of cardstock that measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, so another A2 size card. I'm going to ink up the circle from our paint swatches and stamp that down. We used no diving once again because we're focusing on a color combo. I'm going to stamp down a sentiment again. That one comes from the Framed Florals. Thanks for everything you do. I stamped out the Dahlia again. This is the smaller one out of our peel apart. And then I'm going to use some Guppy and we're just going to blend that on there using those little Amazon ink blenders. And then I'll bring in the matching die for this one as well, and we'll run that through our die cutting machine. Once that is cut out, I am going to use a foam square or a couple of foam squares on the back of this one just to give it a little bit of dimension. But this one is a super simple, quick card. And again, the color combos that you could do would be a lot of fun. And switching up maybe your paint swatch backgrounds. So again, we need a base. That base, again, those measure 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 inches, scored at 4 1/4. These are all going to be the same size. And then I'll just take my liquid glue and adhere this down to the front. I'm not going to add any embellishments, but you could. You could do whatever you wanted with that. I'm going to keep this one, like I said, really simple. And once that is on there, that's going to finish off our second card for today. Very fun, very simple. All right, and our third card, we're going to bring in those dies again. So check this out. I'm going to make one more that looks just like that. We're going to do it using the small one. So check it out. This die right here is so cool. It'll cut out all those intricate pieces of the inside of a Dahlia. So I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. It's my little mini die cutting machine that I keep on my desk all the time. And then we're going to pop out all those little center pieces. And but look at that. Isn't that neat? You could just use this particular die to make an entire background using big Dahlia, the small one, all over the place. You could have fun shakers with it. Oof, wouldn't that be cool? But I'm going to bring in the die that goes around it and then just kind of line that up. So I'm just circling it around until it lines up, and then I'll run that through my die cutting machine. And then I have 3 of those. So then I'm going to bring in our Guppy and no diving, and we're going to blend just onto a piece of white cardstock. So I'll do a small amount here on this side and then a bigger amount here on this side using the no diving. And then we'll take our solid colors and run that through our die cutting machine, once for the Guppy and twice for no diving. And then I'll use that liquid glue to adhere down our outline of the Dahlia to put on top of each of those pieces. Isn't that fun? Oh, I just love it so much. So then we'll do that for the blue. We've got 2 of those to do. And then once those are done, I'm going to stamp that, one of the other stamps from our paint swatches right onto our cardstock. Now those Dahlias are not adhered yet. They're just there kind of as a guide. So I stamp that down, and then I'm going to bring in my sentiment that I want. Once again, that comes from the Framed Florals. Always seem to need lots of thank yous. And then now I'm going to pop up our Dahlias. At this point, I was thinking this was going to do, but then I was like, so the last card was pretty simple. I want to make this one a little less simple, even though this is, I think, a fun design also. We're going to put these down with the foam squares. And then I decide to take my background, which again is the same type of background, white cardstock, and we are going to use that Darling Dahlia's background stamp. And we're going to stamp the background of our base. So we'll get that ready to go. We'll put this inside of the MISTI, because here I'm looking at it going, it's a little simple, and I didn't want 2 super simple cards. So we'll put that inside the MISTI just using some mint tape, tack down our stamp, And then we're going to use the guppy on the background. So we'll stamp that all over the background. And red rubber, like I said, just stamps so nicely for a background. And there you go. Now I'm going to trim down this panel. So I don't remember exactly how small I made it, but I cut almost right up to our dahlias and almost right up to our sentiment. And then what we're going to do with this is attach this down to that background, just using some liquid glue. And once that is on there, that's going to finish off this card. So I love how that background just kind of pops on there. So super fun. There's our third and final card. So let's go ahead and take a look at all 3 cards that I made today. I would love to know if there was a favorite that you had in here. Do you like simple? Do you like a little bit more complex? Maybe you like all of them. This would be a really cool set to give to a friend or whatnot. But if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you soon in another video. Bye, everybody.